Adding the White House's latest opening salvo appears to have touched a nerve among congressional Republicans. We have Republican Congresswoman Cammack of Florida, member of the House Homeland Security Committee, here with us today. Congresswoman, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time this holiday week, and Happy New Year to you. It's going to be interesting in the new year, to say the least. Now, there's no secret that the GOP is going to launch a flurry of investigations. They've been seeking answers already, or just really some of the things they might use to ultimately come to answers. Your thoughts on how the White House is approaching this before things really even get underway?
Well, happy New Year to you and everyone out there watching. But, you know, this is the part that is really frustrating for the new incoming majority. You already have the White House coming out, playing political games and saying they're going to slow walk everything. But what we have seen is really just a continuation of what they've done for the last 2 years. I can tell you, as the ranking member for a subcommittee on Homeland Security, it took nearly 8 months to get responses and receipts for $130 million that the Biden administration took from a homeless veterans program and redirected to the border. They did it really quietly, but they didn't want to share any of that information. So you can imagine that going into this majority, they're going to do everything they possibly can to stop any request from every committee that is an oversight committee, which of course in Congress, every single committee is an oversight body. And they're going to do everything they can to turn the spin machine on, to misdirect and show the American people that, oh, look over here, there's something going on, when reality is that there are some really nefarious things going on within this administration.
Do you think that the White House can slow things down, but ultimately answers will come forth?
Absolutely. You know, the one thing that the Republican majority is focused on is walking and chewing gum at the same time, which in Congress, they haven't really been able to see that out of this Democrat majority. Not only are we going to be holding all these accountability measures, holding this administration to account for all their failures, but also working to do the things that we need to get done on behalf of the American people, bringing down energy prices, firing the 87,000 IRS agents that the Biden administration hired at the expense of working class folks. We're going to be doing these two things of a very aggressive agenda to help Americans get back on their feet while securing our borders and holding the Biden administration accountable. I think the American people need to see both, because that's what they've demanded in these midterm elections. And I'm excited for us to get started come January 3rd.
Of all the things you want to get answers on, you know, there were so many on that list. What do you think is the most important?
I mean, really, there's so many things that have gone awry. You can point to, of course, the border crisis, which is the largest border crisis that we've experienced. The failures, the negligence, the dereliction of duty there, the Afghanistan withdrawal, which cost the 13 service members their life. You can go on and on and on about Hunter Biden. You can go on about Mayorkas. You can talk about the crime wave, the 300 people a day in the United States that are dying from fentanyl as a result of the open borders. There is no shortage of items that we have to address. But at the end of the day, we are responsible for our national security. And so we've got to secure our borders. We've got to get this economy back on track. And we got to reduce the size and scope of government that has infiltrated every aspect of our lives.
A little shift in topic here. The Wall Street Journal's Kimberly Strassel writes in this op-ed, House Republicans plan committee and censors and snoops. An expert. Sources tell me that the House Republicans plan to set up a panel under the Judiciary Committee, tentatively called the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. The title, kind of a recognition that the recent revelations about government meddling in speech and politics go way beyond the FBI. The Twitter files have also shown the FBI was facilitating censorship requests from other parts of government. Add this to the other disturbing government moves to use its power to silence or track citizens. Your thoughts on a potential effort to delve into the role that government, not to mention agencies like the FBI, have played in our social media, the ability of Americans to communicate, and free speech?
Absolutely. I mean, if anything that we've seen over the last 2 years has shown us is that the Biden administration will go to any length to really weaponize every single agency at their disposal, including the IRS, in which we saw them hire 87,000 new IRS agents, not to address the backlog where we still have returns from 2019 being processed, but to audit working class Americans, or the DOJ, which we saw weaponized to go after parents who were concerned about their children's education. You look at the FBI and their collusion with these big tech companies to censor our First Amendment rights and speech. There really is no end to where this goes. I mean, we've seen under the USDA where they have picked and chosen who gets their loans paid off completely, but you have to check a certain box. I mean, this is really what is so egregious about the Biden administration, that they are picking and choosing winners and losers. And so when you look at a subcommittee, a select committee like this, it's really critical because we need to explain to the American people how this administration has weaponized these agencies, but more importantly, how we are going to dismantle that and fix it so it doesn't ever happen again.
You know, President Biden also signed that massive funding bill into law yesterday, another $1.7 trillion tacked on to sort of the spending legacy. Well, it's true that the bill did get some bipartisan support. Most on the right are pretty miffed about some of the items that have been stuffed in there, some of the pork. Here's what critics call pork, the liberal goodies, the sky-high spending bill, the White House. But this is the optics of this. The White House actually flew this massive bill for signing to St. Croix, and on the taxpayer dime as well. Just the optics of that, the bill itself, and then the optics of the signing.
Absolutely disgusting. Not only does this $1.7 trillion just basically pour gasoline on the record historic inflation that we have seen and dealt with for the last year and a half plus, but we are now funding all these pet projects like the Michelle Obama hiking trail in Georgia and a bunch of community centers around the country named after senators. It's absolutely ridiculous that when folks across America are dealing with decisions like, do I pay rent or do I get gas in my car? What do I do about putting groceries in the refrigerator this winter when the heating bill has gone up 4 times? These are the things that we normal Americans are contending with, and the president of the United States has the nerve to not only be vacationing at a super mega donors island in the tropics, but then has to have the bill flown at taxpayer expense so that he can sign this 4,000-page monstrosity. It's disgusting. It's unacceptable, and he should be ashamed. Americans across this country, regardless of political affiliation, ought to be absolutely outraged.
There are a lot of Republicans that feel that way as well. Congresswoman Cammack, thank you so much for